Sorry, this part all takes a second.
Yeah.
You're all set.
Great. Good morning, everybody. I think, well, we'll just do a really quick icebreaker. Everybody knows each other, but I'd love to know what your favorite holiday movie is, if you don't have one. Let's start with you. We'll go around this.
I'm Kelly Chanel. Let's see. God, there's so many.
It could be a favorite. It doesn't have to be the
Favorite
top one.
Home Alone's. Gotta be Home Alone.
Yeah.
Cal Elmore. My favorite is the oldie Year of 130.
Oh.
It's
The
just
black and white or the color?
black and white. Yeah.
Barbara McDade, It's a Wonderful Life.
Sundance and A Christmas Story.
Sam Stefani, and I thought of two. The animated Grinch I was obsessed with when I was a kid, the animated one. And then more recently, Greta Gerwig's 2019 Little Women, which is a Christmas movie, in my opinion.
Nina Early, chair of the committee. You two stole some of mine. So I will say, and I know this is controversial, Love Actually.
Aw.
Hi, I'm Polly Adams, the vice chair of the committee. And I've always been partial to the claymation Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. The island of
California raisins.
the island of misfit toys.
So good.
Gets me every time.
I'm Sarah McQuillan. I'm the Community and Economic Development Assistant for the city. And my favorite Christmas movie is National Lampoon Christmas Vacations.
I think I got the idea what's going on. Cody Clark and Elf or Die Hard.
Die Hard, absolutely.
Yeah, Die Hard.
All right, thanks, everyone. Any questions on the meeting minutes from our November meeting?
I move they be accepted as presented.
I second that motion.
All in favor? Great, thank you. My report. I put all my things into actual agenda items this month, so I don't have anything to report. I did want to just plug a reminder. I know, Sarah, you sent out information about this meeting happening on Monday at Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness downtown. It's a meeting from the Maine Arts Commission about a new grant program. We as a commission would potentially be eligible because we can apply for grants as part of the town, the municipality. If anybody would like to go, I think it's at 10. I can't, but I will ask Danielle, who's putting it on, if I can either join by Zoom or if she can send me a recording if they're recording it. But it's meant to be an in-person meeting. Let me know if you'd like to go.
And we'll be there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Should be really interesting. And that is the grant program that I was talking about last month when I said there are other grant programs coming for all the people who had applied who didn't get as much as they had wanted. Cool. Were we able to share that meeting with them?
Yes, yeah,
Perfect.
and I did send that around.
Thank you. All right. Financial report. There was a thing on here that I think we will end up talking about later. We'll get an update on Merrily grant from the spring. Any other questions about what's left, about what we decided to give away? Cool. Grant committee.
Nothing here until next time we do next cycle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cultural Asset Committee, Tristan's not here. I will plug again that in January, we need to elect a new chair of that committee.
Perhaps on your list next time grant committee meets a discussion about whether we should divvy up the amounts that we give away in 2 cycles.
Weren't we also
Right.
talking about doing one big thing instead of two?
We have a few things on our grant committee sort of discussion list, but it's not, I think, ready for a full committee discussion, but yes.
Yeah, I think like last time we met, we felt we will divide them evenly. Like the grant committee came to that conclusion. We're gonna divide them evenly, spring, fall, and then we got the fall submissions and we didn't do that. We just
Yeah.
felt like they were really strong, so we didn't like put that into like official, like we didn't make that an official policy. So, but then there was that idea on the table that instead of having 2 grant cycles, we just have 1. So everyone's competing together. We don't have to do this thing where we're like, but maybe in the spring they won't be as strong, so we should go hard in the fall. So that's something that we'll think about at our next
Yeah.
meeting.
I think it's also related, and this is point 8 on the agenda, general budget planning and potentially having some conversations to request an increase. But I'd like to, yeah, we'll talk about that further down. Cool, but we can also, the next time the grant committee meets, probably won't be until, well, maybe we can make a meeting sometime in the
We could.
new year
Mhm.
to start thinking about those things, and then we can bring them to the commission
Mhm.
before the next grant cycle. But I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, we
the
can
amount
meet
we
in
have left
January or
for the
February.
next grant cycle is set. There's nothing we can do for April.
It's pretty clear that no matter what you decide, not everybody's gonna be happy with any of it.
Correct.
Yes.
There's gonna be more ask for, we don't have the ask will be higher than the budget we have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of freedom in not having it specified. It gives us more flexibility. But then there's the anxiety around, well, what if we get this better thing in spring? There's no easy answer.
No.
Any other grant committee questions? Well, if anybody would like to join the grant committee, we can make that happen. Cool, cultural assets, right, Tristan's not here. Tristan terms out after this month, so we will need a new chair of the committee. We will elect chairs for committees in January. Sorry, but if anybody has questions for Tristan, now would probably be a good time to email him. October. I have no updates. I think we're all set with everything we've paid. We paid for printing. So we will have a meeting sometime in the spring to plan next October. Any committee questions? Cool.
Just,
Yeah.
I am on Cultural Assets Committee and I know that Tristan did get access to the storyboards and we should make sure that we get that information properly before.
Mhm.
Would have a place to find like what the charge of that committee is, or is it pretty straightforward?
Oh, that's a good question. Do we have
Um,
committee descriptions?
that is a great question. I will do a little research and see if that's in the ordinance section for the commission, if the subcommittees are outlined in there. So yeah, I will work on
Thanks.
Two of the main things that we did were the storyboards that are on the website, which explain the history and culture of the city. And then we're also in the past have done an annual assessment of all the outside art and turned it in if there's anything that needs to be repaired.
Thanks.
Yeah, if Anne was here, I'd probably ask again about the artist plaque. Even
I was
Hook
just
that
gonna
says
ask
Hook,
again about
and
that
I've
anyway.
been, bringing it up since the summer, and I'd love to get that.
Yeah, can we record that in the
Yes,
minutes?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Would one of you have time to just email me the correct spelling so I can make sure I have it in writing? Thank you.
Great. Any other committee thoughts, questions? Right. Sarah, I think the next item is yours, the spring grant follow-up. for Mary.
Yes,
And Marilee's here.
yes, I was
Great.
gonna say, if you wanna just come on up to the table and, yep.
Hi.
Good morning.
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 Right, so
Yep,
just gonna
just-
dive in.
yep, dive in.
And as some of you might remember, I was proposing to do an on-site vigil exhibit about the old YMCA after spending about 4 months doing research and observing and so since that time, been thinking, and I also kind of my budget got a little squirrely, which I take full responsibility for. So there's a few elements in the idea and the concept that shifted since I last visited with you all. And I did visit with Anne and speak with her a little bit. And she said, why don't you bring it to the group? So this morning I'm here just to kind of share this new idea, which feels a little bit more like an intermediary, smaller scale, more accessible, and I think timely proposal for talking about the change of the old YMCA and some of the social issues that were kind of arising around a loss of such a large building and large space, not only for those that remember swimming there, but those that are currently unhoused and see a loss of space and shelter. So all that said, I believe, and I don't have a printer, and I can give this to you if you'd like,
Yep.
but this is kind of my recap edit. The $300 materials budget that you all brought to me, I thought I could use with Bangor Frameworks. That will cover the cost of framing 6 pieces. The promotion of this event, which would be taking place during First Friday and actually a couple weeks beforehand and several weeks afterwards, based on a partnership that I just was serendipitously lucky enough to develop with Monique over at Downtown Bangor. Met with her yesterday and toured both the Central Farmhouse or the Center Street Farmhouse, excuse me, and the Salty Brick. So the idea being that during First Friday, they're positioning themselves in a really fantastic way where they can take spaces that are in this liminal transition space, which is conceptually really awesome based on the exhibit being about change within the built environment. And so I can pop up as an artist, do a pop-up exhibit for several weeks in one of these locations, which these two were kind of the ones that makes the most sense. Central Farmhouse being kind of ideal. She's going to look into some scheduling with the current tenant and then the tenant that is shifting in. Likewise at the Salty Brick. So stop me if I'm speaking too quickly or you have any questions. But the idea would be to install in a few weeks in one of these locations, printed photographs, a listening station where there would be headphones for people to listen to the audio of the demolition of the site, some of the commentary from bystanders, the demo crew, county commissioners. There would be transcripts with some images available, and then raw material. And so both of these locations have a window situation that you can see from the street, as well as spaces to sit. It might be a way to record memories. You know, there's a lot of possibility in popping up in these two locations. It's donated space. It feels really aligned, and much more manageable than creating a 3-dimensional cube to project upon in the night, which was my initial idea, which could happen, but not right now. So the exact dates, which I can also type this up in email to you, which might be better. But it would be installing on the 18th or 19th of this month with the potential for a soft opening on the 20th. And Monique and Betsy had asked if I would be available during Downtown Countdown, which could be really interesting. I suggested if that's the case, I would like to also have tea and socks and gloves and resources for our unhoused neighbors. And then First Friday, January 3rd, open again, maybe the 10th and the 11th of January on the weekend to kind of get more folks in, and then I would deinstall the 13th or the 14th.
And you would have the
I
pieces
did it for
framed
you.
before the 18th, obviously, so potentially we would know the materials cost within this fiscal year still, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, that would be happening. I mean, I just spoke to Bangor Frameworks just the other week. I have the frames, they have the glass and mat. I have, so I think, I don't have the exact calculation, but I know that it's $50 per piece.
Mhm.
So that would be, and then I'm thinking, so yeah, that would be the total materials budget would go to that. And then if there was any printing, I'm still looking to kind of revive sponsorship that I received from the University of Maine. And then seeking sponsorship from Print Bangor potentially for some of the chapbooks.
Are there any timing concerns from the city?
The only timing concern would be if for any reason this wasn't gonna go off, before April. Because the grant funds have to be
Yes.
used within 1 year of when they're awarded. So that would be the only concern. So based on your current plan, that's not a timing concern. Only if your timeline started to get shifted forward into the spring would we need to
Right.
readdress that.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, would she have to show that her material cost was actually 600, so that we're covering half,
Right.
like the 300 can
Oh,
only.
yeah, thank you
So
for that clarification.
Typically with
Yeah.
individual artists, I
Yep.
have them submit all of their expenses regardless of what the amount is. And then that way
Yeah.
I have the full scope of what was spent on the project.
So if you did pay for some printed materials or other things,
Mhm.
include that in the
Yep, in the
calculation.
report, yeah.
And I think it'd be okay if there was a donation to cover that, right? Like
Yeah.
this
In
donation in
kind.
kind,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of what I was.
I just don't want you to only
Or-
submit for 300 and we can only give you
Right,
150.
right, thank
Yeah.
you, appreciate that. Yeah, right, okay.
any other questions?
I think it sounds great.
Thanks.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. Cool.
Really great use of those spaces.
Yeah,
while they're
I
in
was
transition.
amazing that they're donatable
Yeah.
spaces. I mean, there's the Redemption Center down by Wash. There's all of these wonderful spaces that I think could be used in really creative, strategic ways before they're occupied fully. So I might be returning with some other ideas late in the future based on this discovery. But thank you for your support, and I'll type up my notes to
Yeah,
you,
perfect.
and there will be flyers at some point, and yeah.
We don't have another in-person meeting before then, but
Okay.
if you email Sarah.
Yeah.
Okay.
With an actual opening date, if you're
Great.
having an actual event.
Yeah.
Then we can all know about
Put
it.
it on
Yeah.
the social media.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, it will definitely be the first Friday in January for
Right.
sure. That
Mhm.
soft opening, we'll see.
Yeah.
But definitely the first Friday. So it'll be lovely to see you all there if you're able to come out. But, okay.
Sounds very much. I'm glad it's being changed from there because that was a one-night deal.
Mm-hmm.
And this will be ongoing for many people.
Yeah, I think, and that seemed important also that it's, thank you first. Yeah, I agree. And daytime hours too, because night driving is awful in the winter. So, yeah. Okay, well, can I just go?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right.
No, you're not staying. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Kelly.
Yes.
You went to the RERC, is that what we're calling it?
Yeah,
Committee meeting, this is now a while ago.
it was,
Um,
but I
We
took
didn't have
notes,
right.
which is good because I had to go over and try to read my handwriting yesterday. That was amusing. So it's the recreation economy for rural communities had a little thing at Hassan that I went to. Ann was there too, I think. There were people from Bangor Savings Bank, from the Maine Tourism Office. There was people from the city of Brewer there. And what it is, the feds are giving a grant for recreation in our area. As part of the Office of Tourism, they're part of Rescue Plans Fund and a grant. It's totaling like up to 10 million, but we're gonna be getting this area about $1 million to help support economic recovery and to expand things like, the recreation trails and things in the area, the kiosks that Betsy was talking about downtown can be part of this. The funds can be used for that, to draw people to this area. And there was a lot of talk. If I'm going too fast, let me know. I'm just trying to like summarize. There was a lot of talk about marketing and trying to attract people to live, work, and play in the Bangor area, because it's kind of been known as like the gateway to the north, and there's so much more here. And they're also talking about Bangor isn't using the full capability of marketing promotion like Portland. A percentage of hotel stays goes to the city in a what do you call it, a TIF or a TID or whatever the terminology is. I'm not quite familiar with that, but it's a percentage of each hotel room night stay that goes to the city, like 1 or 2%. And that money can be used for marketing to draw people to the area and for the city to do things. So I guess something like I don't know, they had different amounts that different cities, Boston does it, Portland does it. You could potentially, raise upwards of $1 million for Bangor just by taxing the rooms at the casino and stuff, an extra 1-2% then the business owners here wouldn't have to pay that. But I think the biggest thing was about trying to market this area, to have people come and visit as tourists and to live and work here. They have developed a whole bunch of personas and a RFP like we did with the things we do, but they've done this to which type of people would be coming to visit Bangor, which type of people would be coming to work here. But a part of it would be going to not just the kiosk, but for outdoor activities, improving the trails, recreational trails, not just in Bangor, but in the entire Bangor area. More access to the river, which is kind of like going in with what this college students or the signage and all kinds of stuff like that. Another huge thing they were talking about, the challenges going forward, was like volunteers for a lot of stuff. And they were talking about that we need a central place for events posted for the region to get more people to come here. And I was like, oh, that's funny. We tried that. That was denied. I didn't say anything. I just was taking notes. But that was something that a lot of different people there had expressed, that there was a need for a central calendar of events in this area. And there was talk of like finding this new identity for Bangor, besides just being the gateway to the north, like that Bangor needs an identity, like great place to live and work and play, the Queen City or what. There was a lot of chat about this, and I know it was really interesting. There's a lot of really smart people in the room that really care a lot about this region, and it was really exciting. So it was cool. Yeah.
Cool.
So this is stay tuned. It's coming. So
I found this morning, and I'm trying to find things. I find things. And one was a walking trail map of the walking trails of Bangor. I don't know how many of you have seen it. And I don't know if I dropped it in the stuff that I wasn't keeping or if it's in the file, but it's still sitting right there in my kitchen. And I don't know who produced it. I don't remember who produced it. And whether it came out of
Is it a pamphlet?
yeah,
Does it have Paul Bunyan on the front?
Well,
This Bangor Green Drinks produced
Yeah.
these
With
trail
that-
maps
with
of
that
the
one?
whole area. And they're, like free and they're
right.
kind of around.
Mhm.
And we give them out at every green drinks event. So then they're like floating around and they're at businesses and things like that. So I don't. Might have been that.
Listen, it said walking trails at Bangor. Area of Bangor, something, and I said, oh. Okay.
So
I know the library had one that we gave out for a long time.
So that was something they were talking about with these kiosks that we could have, there's going to be interactive maps where you can put your phone up to it and get the Google Maps of different eateries in the area, even the recreational trails, walking trails, things like that of interest. But I thought like to myself, once again, I didn't say anything, but like our cultural assets maps that could be put on those kiosks downtown by the bus station when people are walking downtown out to eat. It's like, boom, you just scan your phone and then, oh, there's this art thing here, here and here. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
Now, I think it also went into the walks out, the Walden Park area. And there's, you know, that out, the one's way out Essex Street, that Lucy Quimby, did a lot of work on, and Bangor.
That was one of the land trusts, wasn't it?
Right. The land trust.
But I don't know, those are walking trails
Yes.
for people that don't want to walk, and it is a different thing than downtown Bangor, but they are encompassing Bangor because you need, in doing develop that, you've got to think of all the brains got to work beyond. And as I have said to many people that want to know where they can get a good walk in, I will use, and then I'll say, do you want a cardio? Where do you send them? Montauk Cemetery. It is the best cardio, short walking distance we have within the city of Bangor.
Historical Society also does great tours.
Mhm.
Cemetery. I wonder if some of that funding, because one of the cool things about this funding is that it's not just restricted to the official downtown district.
It was the.
So that's really interesting. But I also wonder if some of that funding could help us come up with some reimbursement or grant money for the Pickering Square art installation boxes when those go up. That could be a small something that might make like increase interest in putting artwork in that. And I know that's a thing later and still in process, but some of those things could be really interesting. And we will just stay in touch with Betsy as we always do, and see if anything else comes up. Cool.
It was really cool though, because there was some people that really care about this area and you could tell, and smart people, and it was exciting. It was good. Like people want good things for this area, so very encouraging.
Yeah, I wish we had a website that was visitbangor.com.
Yeah.
That wasn't just like the cities, like the .gov was very like not tourist friendly, but like most cities or even towns have a visit blank and it has a community calendar and it has a directory of businesses and things to do and whatever.
Can the city just buy that URL? Because it's available.
And then the city needs to hire a person whose job that is to like do the outward facing, drawing the tourists to the area and like, cause that's a full-time job.
Oh,
to-
totally.
Oh, yes.
To keep
Yes.
Visit Bangor as a website going.
Yes. One thing we could also do is hint to Justin that that URL is available and he should just buy it and redirect his calendar to visitbangor.com.
I just think it needs to be city owned and like not rely on an individual, because if he decides he doesn't want to do that anymore, he moves or whatever, like. The
Yeah.
city should just have a site that's dedicated to, I mean, I would use it too. It doesn't have to be just tourists, but it's like the things to do, right? You're saying like everyone's issue is there's no
I
place.
had to chuckle. I was like, we tried.
Right. Yeah, there you go, Sarah. Plant that seed.
Do my best.
The powers that be.
Do you ever overlap with the chamber at all on things like that?
I don't know that this commission does, but I think there's potential to. I think. Yeah, if anyone has ideas or goes to meetings or is involved. I think one of the things, and we've talked about this, is
No.
one of the things that's missing is different groups coming together, like
Mhm.
being able to talk. And Downtown Bangor Partnership does that a little bit with their meetings,
Mhm.
but that's business focused.
Yeah.
But there's all these different groups and organizations, like, we're not all talking together and we could all support each other better.
Mhm.
So if anyone has ideas, we could do things. Cool. Any other community visioning thoughts, questions? Great. Budget planning. I just wanted to put this on here to talk a little bit. Really what I'd like to do is get a small group together early in the next year, because I want to have a better plan for next year's budget. And for our request from city council for the budget. And so I'd like a little bit of help. I'm happy to kind of lead this ad hoc committee or whatever it's gonna be. But I'd like to know from you, Sarah, who our city council person is, if we get a
I'm
new
so
one.
Sorry, I meant to respond to your email. So, we actually don't have a city council liaison anymore.
Yeah.
They got rid of that requirement
Oh.
over the last year.
Okay,
So they're no longer doing that.
Okay.
As having a
Cool.
assignment. Yeah.
all right. Because one thing I'd like to do is talk to some city councilors ahead of time, kind of feel better prepared when we go into that meeting. And also kind of know more about what's happening budget wise, to see what might be possible or some arguments for the money we're asking for. As part of that, I'd like to revive our calendar idea. We might as well ask again. We did all this research, we did all this planning. And so that can be part of this budget subcommittee discussion, but also kind of, do we ask for more money for grants?
Yes.
And as part of that, Sarah, do you have records for the grant amounts that were requested
Yes,
and given for the
Yep.
past
I,
X years?
yes, I have for, at least the last like 5 years, I think.
Great. Can
So,
you send me that?
yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
Okay,
Do we know how long it's been set at 20,000 for grants? Cause I think
That's
there's an
a good
argument to
question,
be
too.
made, like if it's been the past 20 years, right?
Right.
Showing inflation over the
Yeah.
past
Yeah,
however many years, and that the grants have been stuck at 20,000.
Mhm.
I don't know personally, but I can see if that's something that I can dig out of, like old council meeting records, maybe be in there.
Cool.
And, maybe I should just set up, like a quick meeting for just you and Ann to meet
Yep.
first, to a plan.
Yeah,
I have just cleaned out a notebook and it is, the trash is still sitting there of my years on this thing. And the reason I cleaned it out is today is my last meeting.
Right.
And I thought, you've got all these 3-inch, 2.5, 3-inch, et cetera, binders sitting here. You need to condense them and decide what you're gonna do with them, or reuse them, or out they go someplace. And I will try, I know the trash. No, it isn't. I dropped it in the trash bucket. I had it in a 2-gallon trash bag, Ziploc bag, okay? And I dropped it in. So it went to with the city trash on Tuesday, sorry.
that's okay.
Timing is everything. Timing is everything.
When you're trying to condense down all of these things that you have done, and I think it goes back to, well, I know I've done at least 8 years on this thing, counting millions of dollars on this board, so therefore I don't intend to reapply another time.
As part of this budget planning, so I will send out an email probably in January sometime, see who's interested in joining. I'll chat with Anne first, just so that I'm prepared, and then we can just keep that going. I know
I would suggest to contact Jane Bragg and ask her
Yeah,
if she's got it.
that's a good idea. She might have records too. Yeah, thank you.
And
Um,
Betsy, one you might know from her years
that's
as
true.
the liaison.
Yeah. and Tanya from her years as
Mhm.
Anne. Cool, so we'll find the information, it's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
But that will help us feel more prepared when we're asking for more next year. And have arguments and reasons for it. I know the budget request is gonna be due, is it April 1st?
I believe
March
so.
something, April 1st.
Yeah.
So we've had a little bit of time, but I also want to make sure we have enough time if we need to have other meetings and other discussions leading up to that. And then the actual in-person kind of, please come defend your request is probably not going to be until late May. So lots of time, but still, I want to make sure to flag it now. And if anybody has ideas or thoughts, I am all ears. Related to that, and this is not really a discussion for today, but I did want to start planting a seed so that in January and February, when we have a bit of time on the agendas, we can think a little bit more and have a deeper discussion. I'd love to talk more about what our goals and priorities are for next year or the year after as a commission. I want to make sure that we're not just giving grants, which is great and really important, and kind of have these ideas that we keep having to kick down the road. I'd love to be a little bit more intentional about how we're approaching things and planning and have space for discussion and ideas. So happy to spend a couple minutes on it now, but if anybody has ideas or if anybody just wants to keep thinking about it until January, February, any kind of goals or bigger ideas for things we could do or ways we could better communicate with other organizations or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought is that we might want to start seeking money elsewhere. Like, that's not something we've done. We've really like relied on the city, gone to the budget meetings, asked for money, been denied, and then given up on projects. Like even, I mean, not just the community calendar, but the public art too, where we thought we might get funding right to replace the statue. So maybe this committee wants to turn its attention to state grants or other forms of funding to actually be able to put into motion the plans that we spent hours on.
Yeah. It also, right, might mean that if we have funding elsewhere that requires a match, maybe the city would be more likely to match a certain amount if we're seeking funding elsewhere and are receiving grants. Because that would increase our money and decrease their investment in what we're doing. Yeah. Any other?
I think the whole idea of the Visit Bangor website and somebody dedicated to keeping those kind of things. I mean, not just the website, but just a continual awareness of the arts and culture in Bangor, just front and center. You know, it's such an economic driver, but we need to advertise it more. And maybe advertising isn't the right word for it, but.
Yeah, great. I think one continuous thing that we keep trying to work on is people knowing what's happening.
Yeah, but so much of that feels like a full-time job beyond the scope of volunteer hours. And, you know, we're all on these like limited contracts. I think like I term out, I have 1 year left. So, you know, it's hard to be like, I'm going to take on this website project and, you know, devote 10 hours a week when, you know, it's unpaid and it's
It's not
temporary.
sustainable.
Right, that's what I mean.
It
Yeah,
is.
like it seems like this committee, we're all volunteers, we all, you know, full-time jobs, and then we're all terming out, you know, periodically. It makes it hard to like sustain a long-term project.
I have a crazy idea. But
Okay.
I've already talked to you about this, I think, before on the folk festival. I'd love to see that come back. So I'm just gonna put it out there, and I'd be willing to renew my term when it's over to continue to see this happen here in Bangor. So if you'll have me, so that's one of my things I'd love to see come back here. It was awesome.
It was.
Yeah.
I got 1 year in before.
Yes.
Yeah.
And on stuff like that feels like a massively daunting task, but also if no one ever talks about it, then it's definitely never gonna happen.
And there's still actually something towards that. There's still like a whole chain of volunteers that used to volunteer for it. My mother's cousin used to volunteer and she has a whole like phone tree of volunteers that they love to do it every year and get together and do it. And so there are resources like that available, so.
There's also more infrastructure that supports
Mhm.
live music now
Yeah.
than there was 20 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, could be really interesting. We have to get the right people in the right room.
mhm. Yeah.
Speaking of music, have any of you heard the music at the Christmas tree downtown?
Yeah,
A little bit, yeah.
yeah, it looks great this year.
Yeah.
It really does.
I have heard, I was at a stoplight
Yeah.
and I wasn't sure if it was playing or not, cause I couldn't remember the schedule, so I put. The light turned red as I pulled up, or turned yellow as I pulled up the stoplight. And so I put window down and listened. It was great.
I think there are some people downtown that are pretty upset about the Christmas tree.
Oh,
Not gonna lie.
uh-oh.
So,
Because of noise or light?
both.
Oh, I love it.
Is this its first time having noise?
Yep,
Yes.
And is it more lit than?
it
previous
flashes.
Oh,
It's,
It's not the first time I've heard it.
it's intense.
well, but they're like, no one lives down.
Yeah.
Just put a plastic loud tree.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hope it turns off after.
no, it runs pretty constantly from like 10 to 10.
Okay.
So I think the general sentiment from downtown is we hate the Christmas tree, so.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
I drive a lot at night.
Right, but
because
do
of
you live
hockey.
downtown?
I don't,
Right.
so I don't have to hear it all night, but I love seeing it. It's like, you're just. It's like the busiest time of year for me with
Yeah.
my son playing hockey, so I'm constantly zipping back and forth through downtown and I love it. It just cheers me up. Even if I'm having a really crappy day, it's like, it's beautiful. It's like the little town square from like a Hallmark movie or
Why does that
something. I don't know.
flash though? That is
It's,
unnecessary.
it feels like a not so subtle unhoused deterrent.
Oh,
Oh, really?
oh.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Who's responsible for it?
I don't know.
I mean, a lot of
The
cities
casino
do things
paid
like
for
that,
it,
where there's like
yeah.
a show, like
Well, that's
15
the-
minutes at the beginning of the hour. or
That's the scope
something,
of
you know?
that.
Like there's
That's
flashing for
needed.
10 minutes and then 15 minutes and nothing.
I mean, it is the first year they've done it
Yeah.
as a bigger thing, so maybe this is just a learning
Yeah.
phase, and hopefully they will take some feedback. and-
Hopefully.
All right. We have 15 minutes left. Staff updates. Sarah, you have a couple of things for us.
Yes, so really quick, so I thought I was gonna have an update on the materials for the Pickering Square art, but I actually don't have that today. But before we get to, my brief update on the public restroom art, I wondered if I could give the floor over to Caitlin, who's been waiting very patiently, and she has a art installation she wants to talk about.
Cool, yeah. Yeah, you have to sit at the table so that the Zoom can hear you.
So I would like to propose installing a scarf to scale on the Paul Bunyan statue. It sounds like a big undertaking, but the scale of the knitting is not actually that daunting. So I already have a lot of the materials because I wanted to have it done in enough time to have it installed on December 20th. And I also wasn't seeking any like funding from Bangor at all. I would like to install one of those like 18 by 24 campaign size yard signs in front of the statue with a QR code that will lead you to my coffee account, which is a website that allows you to accept tips or donations of like cost of a cup of coffee. Where people can hopefully donate and help me recoup my costs on materials and anything beyond the cost of materials that I generate, and I'll be like giving transparency updates on that account about what I've collected so far and the cost of my materials and everything. Anything beyond recouping my costs, I want to use 50% of those donations to buy
inexpensive, easy care yarn to machine knit scarves to donate to those in need in the Bangor area. Yeah, I wrote out everything for everyone, and I got in contact with Taylor Rental over on Hammond Street about renting their 36-foot aerial boom lift to install it, and they're in place. They are tentatively possibly going to donate the cost of the rental in exchange for some advertising on that 18 by 24 sign in front of the statue. The yarn is marine grade rope. And I have all the specifications written down here, where there's smooth fibers to minimize any risk of scratching the statue. That's my worst nightmare in all of this, is doing any damage to the statue whatsoever. And it resists holding water. I'm going to be dyeing it to match the color, the green color of his pants. And yeah, it's weather resistant, UV resistant, all that stuff. That's just the shortened version of that. I don't know if anyone has any other questions.
Does it come off in the summer or do you?
Yes, so I wanted to install it on the 20th, and my proposed removal of it would be on spring equinox on March 20th. But if there's a lot of snow and it makes more sense to keep it on, then that can be moved around. Yeah, I don't intend to have it up there all year long.
Does it need to be attached at all to the statue, or do you think it will stay, like, is it attached to itself and draped?
Yes, so, yeah, sorry. I drew up a mock-up of what it would look like. So it would look like it would be like wrapped around. It wouldn't be too straight lines of the scarf hanging down, because that would help secure it better. And I would be securing it to the statue on site. I would be making that loop on site to make it easier to attach, and attaching itself will not be a problem. I will have one other person in the basket of the boom lift with me, and at least one other person on the ground. So in order to do it, the end that's going to be attaching to the other side of the scarf is going to have at least a 40-foot rope attached to that end. It's going to be slung over his shoulder, and the person on the ground is going to be able to walk around the statue to bring it around to the front, and then I'll attach it that way. And if there's any concern about scratching during that process of bringing it around, I also was considering getting one of those like felt moving blankets to put between the statue and the scarf for that part. But yeah.
The city put up the plaque. Does the city own the statue?
That's a really good question.
Because also it's on the property of the cross, so.
Yeah, that's the best I could figure out, is that it is owned and controlled by the city, and it's not attached to the cross center at all. When I was doing my research about who to actually get in contact with. Yeah,
I would think you might still need permission from the cross to put up a.
for the aerial and for the sign.
I'm thinking wouldn't that come also under Tracy?
That's what I was gonna say,
Yeah.
just repainted.
Right, I think we are
Yeah.
kind of a first step.
Right.
Yeah, so I think really what we're just looking for is a general recommendation for the project to move forward, and then Anne and I will have to take it to city council at the committee level, which we can do before the 20th. They have a meeting on the 16th, so.
Is the scarf already knit? You said you're still gonna dye it.
Yes, it hasn't been started yet because I was a little bit worried about whether it would actually be approved.
Yeah.
But I have all the materials and I plan to get started on it as soon as I get even just tentative approval.
Okay.
I wonder if this isn't a question, this is just something I wanted to throw out there. I wonder if there's an opportunity on the sign to like direct people to a place where they could donate warm, like cold weather accessories for like scarves and socks and stuff, like keep your community warm, donate to, here if you want to give people a scarf.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in including that on my coffee account. I had actually been considering, so when I knit up the scarves, if I hopefully get to that point, when you knit up the scarf on a machine, there's still gonna be curling on the edges of the scarf. So I'm in contact with a couple people that work at Bangor Public Library and they run knitting and crochet groups. And I was going to get in contact with them about starting up my own group centered around this, volunteers who want to join in this effort of making scarves for people in need in the area, and maybe helping me put the crochet edges around the scarf so there's not that curling.
Right, and I think that's lovely for the long term, but I do think there is also an immediate need, and I think if we put a big scarf on Paul Bunyan when we have like cold and house
Right.
people, we probably wanna like,
That was definitely a major concern for me.
say like these are places that are accepting
Yes,
cold weather accessories. It's just a thought. I don't know how much real estate you have on your sign.
yeah, and I am very open to getting a bigger size, still yard sign that's not too obstructive, to accommodate more info like that with permission, of course.
I know the person who created the sculpture isn't alive anymore, but I think his son still is, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Is that
I
someone
know.
we should
May
sort of
wanna-
give a heads up to? I know he
Yeah,
cares
I'll
about
see
that
if,
sculpture a lot,
I'll see if Tracy maybe has that contact
Yeah.
information. Yeah.
just so that it's not a surprise for that one person. That might be.
Yeah, driving by and.
Right?
What's on my products?
Yeah.
I just had two quick questions. The dyeing, it won't bleed through onto the statue.
No, I am a professional yarn dyer.
Okay,
And I have well over a year experience in the professional realm of yarn dyeing and selling, and 10 years total on and off sporadically of doing it for my own entertainment and education. And I have selected the right dye that will set well into the rope, and
come on, yeah.
yeah, and I am also planning on doing an extra safety rinse with a dyer's detergent called Synthropol,
Uh-huh.
which does the bulk of the work to remove any remaining dye pigment that didn't properly
So
set.
it won't bleed like in the weather.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
All right, and that's perfect. That was very detailed explanation. Thank you. The other thing I was wondering, what is your little, what is the design on it? What does it mean with the shell thing?
Oh, that's
I was
my,
just curious.
that's my business logo.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know if it
Yeah.
like meant something, but I thought it was cool, so,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, thank you.
I have a couple thoughts too. Number one, very interesting, fun idea. So thanks for
Mhm.
bringing it. Is this the first time it's been officially brought up at
Here.
the city or
Yeah.
anywhere else? Okay. And do we have any precedent of doing things like this with
Yeah.
other public art installations in town?
I tried to research online if anyone's ever decorated it before, if that
Yeah.
was a complete faux pas, and it has had a bandana put on it for a Willie Nelson concert that came into town.
Great.
So it has been decorated before.
Good, so that checks that box.
Yeah.
And also, do we have any precedent, so it crosses over, right, with your business and donations that then become funding mechanism and other things? Have we done that in the past either?
Personally, no.
I don't know either.
That's my like, your business sounds so great, and like, I love the idea of like the donation and how you're gonna give back to the community. I just, like, and I love the scarf idea, I just hesitate over the putting of a like business logo onto it and like what precedent that sets for like businesses can use Paul Bunkin as an advertising opportunity, and I don't think that's what you're doing, and like, you know, you seem to have a really good mission, and I like your project, but like, if we allow for businesses to start advertising, you know, fight, like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
It's a
saying, like,
precedent,
usually,
right?
like.
It's a precedent.
Where
that
the
you have to wonder
donation
about, yeah.
is the second thought, right? It's you're recouping costs, which makes sense, but also then like the leftover gets donated. It's, the donation is not the first intention.
And personally, I'd be more comfortable with it not having the business logo on the scarf and having the
That's-
sign.
yeah.
That would,
And have
that would,
Yeah.
the logo
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
sign, yeah.
yeah.
That's fine.
And I think I'd suggest that probably the first step's really to talk to Parks and Rec about the viability of it. Like, it's a great idea, and I, you know, my approach to doing things is often kind of like now. But I think we're maybe a month away would be my guess. You know, like, one thing that comes to mind is, I suspect they'd want to use a city lift to get up there and help you do that, right? They probably wouldn't want to say, oh, yeah, you know, we trust you to do that.
Right.
Not that you're not the expert navigator of those man lifts, but, you know,
Just liability.
there's a long
Yeah.
way of saying this. I think the first questions are for Parks and Rec about it, and then if they think it's a viable option, I'm sure there's, you know, if it gets past that hurdle, then I'm sure there's a path through this committee too.
I was gonna say, I think the timeline is a little ambitious, because this hasn't been done before. It might be worth tying to some January event. I don't know.
Maybe the first Friday in January, our thing.
Which doesn't give you much.
I was gonna say-
I'm like, if you can get it done, you can get it done.
Right, that's like the
Yeah,
least of
mine
my
is
worries,
you can't get it
honestly.
done by December 20th.
Yeah.
But for me, like on this commission, I would give support without the logo. That's how I feel. But like, I want to give support.
Yeah.
I would like to give support too, but then pending on what Parks and Recreation says, and, you know, that we think this is a good idea, but it has to go through the city.
Right,
the rest
which it
of the
does
city.
anyway.
Exactly.
That'd be more than, I had been considering, should I ask if like the city would possibly have some sort of aerial lift that I could use instead, because it's another extra cost of the rental if the rental agency doesn't wanna.
It's for sure worth asking
The
Tracy.
city has the lift capabilities.
And my guess is they're probably the keeper of
And they
of the
are the-
statue in some ways, you know, like they would probably be the ones who know, yeah, this is the kind of material that works or doesn't work, and here are the challenges. That's why I'd suggest starting
And you
to see if it's viable with Tracy, and if it's viable, coming back to us.
The sculptor's son has.
Yeah. So Caitlin, after this, let's you and I just set up a quick meeting for you to meet with Ann and Tracy, who's the head of Parks and Recreation. And that way you can go over just those logistical items with them.
Okay, but generally, I think we support the idea. Without the logo on the actual scarf, but I think we're okay with you having the sign point to your coffee something account. As long as you're also directing, like giving options for donations
Yes.
directly on that.
And the logo could be on the sign. I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh, one more question.
Yeah.
Did you make your hat?
I didn't.
Oh, it's gorgeous. I was gonna say,
I know,
did she
I
make,
thought
I'm
of
just
that.
sitting here the whole time. Did she
I
make
know.
that? I love that.
I wear one that I've made, but I was in such a rush that.
And I wanted to put a hat on, just like that on,
Beautiful.
Paul.
Paul Bunyan, yeah.
Yes.
And the sculptor's name is Norman Martin, isn't it?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We are slightly over time.
Oh, but could I, before those,
We have a couple more things. If people don't have to run right away, do you have any updates on the RFP?
I do, and it's very
Thank
brief
you.
what I
Cool.
have, but it is the information, I think all of the information that we needed at this
Okay.
point. So, We got approval to offer a $1,200 stipend to the
Okay.
artists, in addition to reimbursement for materials.
Great.
That's great.
I will
Yeah.
take that. Yep, that's good.
So if
I
you're
can update the
able,
file.
yeah, and then if you're just able to tell me when you're finished with that final
Yeah.
draft, then I will
Yeah.
get it over to our finance department, because they handle the actual putting together of
Yeah.
the ad and all of that, and then I can find out from them what the timeline
I think
is.
the only other thing we were missing is the actual dimensions.
Oh, that's
from
right. Yeah,
The side panels and probably different dimensions for the back panel.
yeah, I will get that.
That's the other piece, and I did already update the timeline in our doc.
Yeah.
To have it published likely January 15th, because
Yeah.
at this point, it's not
Yeah.
gonna go through approvals and things before then.
Right.
Does the city need to like slap a logo on it and stuff? Like, do you need
They
that
have
Google
their-
Doc?
Yeah, so it'll
Yeah.
go through,
They'll
we'll-
do their own
we do the
thing.
whole advertising and
never
all of
mind.
it ourselves.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I will send you. I'll probably download it as a Word doc and attach it to the email.
Perfect.
Have it. Cool. I have one final thought, but you had another thought.
Yes, I had a phone call from a citizen, a resident of Bangor, who would like to have some kind of placard in Pickering Square talking about George Pickering, who the square is named after.
Is that part of the renovation plan already?
I haven't heard of anything about that being involved personally, but if they wanna, reach out, I would suggest that they reach out to Parks and Rec first.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Happy to support that. Yeah, especially since it's going through renovations anyway, and there's plans for art
yeah.
spaces and things.
It's apparently quite a leader of the city at
Cool.
one point in time. so.
Right.
Excuse me.
I mean, interesting enough to have a whole square named after him. so,
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. My final two thoughts were that I wanted to give kudos to Holly for running a super, super fast marathon this past summer.
Thank
And
you.
also say a very sad goodbye to her, because this is your last meeting.
It's been
We will miss
a
you.
very educational. I have served on one committee or another, a board, for 30 plus years. And I keep thinking this is going to be the end of it, but I haven't, I'm still on, so therefore on something else. And do I apply for something? And I will tell you, I have learned so much about the operation of the city of Bangor and different things. I didn't know a thing about tax appeals until I got put on. And believe you me, there are certain things I would say, if you're ever going to consider going to the city for appeal of something, make sure darn well you know all the laws and even take an attorney with you. Because when you get into code enforcement things on like your building a garage and et cetera, holy cow.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been
Miss seeing you.
education
Mhm.
and it's been fun.
All right. Any other thoughts? I adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everyone.